We'll hear from Noeline Blackwell now from the Rape Crisis Centre, the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for the invitation to come here from all of you, the citizens. And I'm hoping that what we're able to say to you here will just assist you in understanding, I suppose, something about the impact of rape on women and the impact of pregnancy on women who are raped. So I work with the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre, and I'm the CEO there, and I'm here with my colleague Shirley Scott, who also works in the centre with us. And just to give you a little bit of context about us, we're a voluntary organisation, so a non-governmental organisation, and our aims are to prevent the harm of rape and sexual abuse and to heal the trauma of it. And it's particularly in relation to that second part of our mission that I'm asked to come here and give you the experience we have on that work that we do with the victims of rape and sexual violence. And what we offer is an entirely non-judgmental, confidential service. So it's often even anonymous. People who contact us may never give us their name if they're contacting us over the phone. It may take people a lot of time to make an initial contact with us. It can take years, but even people who phone us often won't be able to talk to us on the first phone call. We are totally non-judgmental, so we take the person seriously when they come to us and identify an impact of rape and sexual violence on themselves. And so what we are bringing to you here today is the experience of an organisation that's over 35 years old and that has run a helpline, a 24-hour helpline for over 30 years, and where our counsellors and therapists have a lot of experience in the area. We hope it helps. So we're the largest of a network of 16 rape crisis centres right around the country, in order to provide a geographical spread to people and a way for people to deal with the impact of rape and sexual violence on them. So we are the biggest, I suppose, because we're working in the biggest area in Dublin. And also we have that national understanding because we're running the national 24-hour helpline. And you'll see our figures there that over 11,500 people contacted us in 2015 about over the telephone, and we see regularly about 500 clients a year for face-to-face therapy as well. We provide an accompaniment service, a companionship service to people who go to a Maeve's sexual assault treatment unit in the Rotunda, and we also sometimes accompany people who are engaging with the justice system. And so 284 people went down, there were 284 visits down to the sexual assault treatment unit and 43 to court and Garda stations. Now, we don't have any case studies for you here either, and it is for some of the reasons that Maeve Ogan spoke about, that you don't want to in any way have somebody feel somewhere that they have been identified to you guys. But it's also that other business about, we really will emphasise again and again, there is no such thing as a normal response to rape. Rape is a huge impact to people's, sometimes their body, but also their psyche and their emotions. And you are talking about dealing with the person wherever they are. So people who contact us are not expected to behave in any particular way. And we work with people where they are in order to allow them to come to a stage where they can cope with the impact of rape and get on with their own lives. So people come to us in all sorts of ways. In the paper we talk about the various stages. People who go to the sexual assault treatment unit in acute crisis can be hysterical, frozen, numb. They can come in to us for face-to-face therapy with the same reactions. They can be furious, they can be so sad, and they can be quite hostile to people who are trying to help them. That's reality, and they can have all of these emotions going on, or several of them going on at the same time. People who contact us on the phone often can't mention it, can't say what has happened, don't know what has happened, or just know something has happened and will eventually get to tell us that they were raped. Now, where people contact us on the phone line, one of the things we're trying to establish is that they're safe, that they feel safe, and that if they need medical attention, they go get it. Very often our counsellors find on the phone line that once you start raising those questions about whether people might have become pregnant as a result of rape or have a sexual disease as a result of rape, we often find that the phone calls end very quickly, because now people have to deal with a new thing that maybe they weren't thinking about, which is that they might be pregnant or that they might have some disease that they need to deal with. In particular, you, I think, need to hear from us about the impact of pregnancy by rape. And again, I just have to go back and say, we're not going to give any easy answer to you. I'd love to be able to give you straight answers to what you want to know, but each case is different. And the other thing that is that we may never hear about a client's pregnancy, or we may not hear about it while they are a client with us, or we may not hear about it until well after they have dealt with the pregnancy in their own way. So, but some of the issues that arise for pregnancy brings a double crisis for sure, because there's the crisis of the rape and there's the crisis of the pregnancy. And some of the things that clients and callers will find is that there's a feeling of shame, feeling of betrayal, there's the terror of it, and there's the anxiety about being pregnant in so many ways. So I'm just going to give you 5 different scenarios that could arise. Somebody contacts us and they've had a baby as a result of rape. Our therapists, our counsellors find that some of the reactions that women will find in those cases is that they feel that they've had the baby, there's an innocent child there, but it's born of aggression, and there may be a loving of the child and a loathing of the child, often at the same time. Client may have had a miscarriage, and in that case there can be a sense of relief that there's no pregnancy, but there can also be a sense of loss, that the baby isn't there even though they didn't want it. In relation to clients who come to us when they're pregnant and are unsure what to do, apart from the ones from whom it dawns on them that they're pregnant while they're talking to us, there is the additional trauma for them of the pregnancy. There are the decisions that they have to make in the context of all of their relationships about whether they are going to proceed, and there are the practical and financial and emotional decisions about either carrying the baby or having an abortion, and all that those entail. If somebody asks us about abortion on the phone line, which is where it would come up, we have to tell them we're not the experts in the area, and we direct them to agencies that are, such as Positive Options or the free text number. A client may contact us after they've had an abortion, and in that case there's a lot of feelings as well. They can feel, but don't have to, feel guilt or sadness at having terminated, the relief of not being pregnant, then a sense of isolation that they can't talk about the rape and they can't talk about the abortion, many of them will feel, and the secrecy surrounding the abortion. And then the anger that some of them will feel at not being able to access a civilised service in their own country as they would see it, or that it's a very complicated process. The final one there is the client who's had a baby as a result of past rape. That's often people who come to us as adults who are talking about childhood sexual abuse, where the child may have been adopted or they may have carried on parenting themselves. and there's the same mix of emotions. One of the things I do want to talk a little bit about, and also Maeve addressed it, is the prevalence of rape. And the answer here again is, I'm afraid I don't know. And the reason is that it is massively underreported. And I have in the paper as well, we've given you 3 studies that give some insight into what we know about the prevalence of rape. And I need to go through this first before we talk about the prevalence of pregnancy as a result of rape from our information. But in a 2002 study, which is still the biggest study done across Ireland, 42% of women who disclosed sexual abuse said they had never told anyone. And 8% of women reported sexual violence to the Gardaí. In a smaller 2009 study, smaller segment in Ireland, it was across 11 European countries, Ireland was shown to have one of the lowest conviction rates of 8% for sexual crimes. So a low reporting rate in the first place, as far as we know, and a low conviction rate for rape afterwards. And the findings in 2014 was that about 2% of women, adult women in the European Union, had experienced sexual violence. It's not definitive enough, but we keep complaining we don't have enough data to really know the extent of the problem. It's also relevant, I think, to know who we believe carries out rape and sexual violence. And it's important because this may affect reporting. When you look at my figures there, in relation to adult rape and sexual assault, boyfriends or partners are, who we hear are responsible for about a quarter of all rapes and sexual violence, which is more than the number of strangers. On that figure there, you will see less than 24% of rapes are carried out by strangers. So 75%, or 3 out of every 4, as far as we know, of rapes and sexual violence in Ireland are carried out by somebody known to the victim. And of course, it makes it more difficult to admit it, to deal with it, and to report it if it is somebody known to yourself, particularly in circumstances where family accounts for about 30% of all of the figures as we know them. In relation to childhood sexual abuse, the number of family-centred rapes and sexual assaults is much higher. The stranger rape in that case is 5%. And parents and other relatives added to boyfriends and partners, because children are children until they're 18, means that over half of all rapes are committed and sexual violence are committed within the family in relation to people who are abused as children. So then, looking at pregnancy disclosure as we know it, we used our own figures plus the Rape Crisis Network of Ireland. You would be forgiven for being confused as to the difference between us because our names are so similar. But the Rape Crisis Network of Ireland is a network of a number of the regional centres around Ireland. Currently about 10 or 11, sometimes there are up to 14 centres involved, but so of the 16 centres, I think it currently has about 11. So we pulled it all together as best we could there and said, again like Maeve's figures, about 4% of women clients of rape crisis centres report pregnancies as a result of rape. It's not brilliant information because we don't have enough data, but from what the experts know, it looks like 4% of pregnancies result in rape. And of that, in the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre, which you have to remember is a very urban-centred centre, about 35% went on to give birth and to parent. About 31% terminated their tenancies, had abortions, and 19% miscarried. We have a small number where children were placed for adoption or we don't know the outcome. The figures in the Rape Crisis Network of Ireland show a higher percentage of the small percentage who report pregnancy at all, but a higher percentage of them went on to parent, and a lower percentage went on to terminate. So that was 49% went on to give birth, and 18% went on to terminate their pregnancy, and 12% miscarried. A more rural profile may have something to do with that. And the final thing I just want to mention is in relation to how we deal with people in the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre and how therapy works for people who are impacted by rape. And I'm going back to, I suppose, something I said at the start, which is that we work with people wherever they are, at their own time, in their own way, and people recover in stages. And one of the issues I think that's particularly relevant to you in the context of looking at whether there should be special provision for victims of rape or incest is that is for us as an organisation engaged in the healing of victims of rape is that people be permitted to take their own journey and heal in their own way at their own pace. For a lot of people, reporting to the Gardaí is never an option. Ever. They're not going to do it. But even for those who are, it can take a long time before they're ready to face that. That's why, for instance, we welcomed the fact that evidence could be stored in the sexual assault treatment unit for up to a year, to allow people more time to disclose to Gardaí that they were the victims of rape. Because, especially in circumstances where most rapes are carried out by someone known to you, you're taking a big step when you report a crime against somebody who could be your partner, your workmate, or your friend. There's also the business that people, no matter how blameless they are, and no victim is ever responsible for their own rape, blame themselves, and they have to, it's a human thing we tend to do. What did I do to make this happen? And we tend, and so there's that business as well. They often have to work through that before they're prepared to report. Nor will some people who come to us be ready to report to anyone other than us who might make a judgment, which could also make it difficult to report to a medical practitioner of any kind if they can get it. There's also the issue for us that we run a low-cost or a no-cost therapy service for people, and people simply may not have the kind of money to go and get a doctor's certificate or whatever. And finally, in relation to self-reporting, there are issues of self-blame, rape victims being singled out, or their credibility being questioned, all of which could interfere with the therapeutic journey that people are on, because our aim is to ensure that people can cope with and manage their own lives again after rape has impacted on them. So finally, again, just recognising that people here, or people who might hear or see this outside of this room, may themselves be disturbed by anything we said. I'm reminding people about our low-call number there, 1800 77 88 88, and I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
The first thing I'd say is that we do have on our website the details of the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre, and I'm saying that not only for the audience here in the room, but for the audience online.